All right, ladies and gentlemen. Everything appears to be in order. You guys know I always like to make sure that the audio's good, and it appears that the video is good as well. Here's what I'm going to do real quick to make sure that there isn't any issues. No autofocus, and exposure is not done automatically because it is a very clear sky outside. It's clear. Clear skies, which means no clouds going in front of the sun and causing the lights to just go completely off kilter. So we don't really need to worry about that. But it's good to see everyone here. Yo, peoples, Kyushu92 here, and welcome back to yet another My Hero Academia chapter reaction and review. It is so good to see you all here. I'm excited because you guys know how I said that I had like a fever the week before last, and then the recurring week afterwards, I was recovering from it. I would cough sometimes during my conversations with you guys, and I know it may put some people off to hear people just like cough into the mic. And for me, that was personally annoying because I didn't want to disgust you guys, and I didn't want to ruin the experience that you were having during any of my live streams while I was still recovering. Well, I'm happy to say that it's out of my system. I can taste and smell things again. I can speak and laugh without having to worry about going into a big old coughing fit. I am happy to say that I am back where I need to be. My voice is back where it needs to be because I need this voice in order to voice these characters for you guys. So I'm happy to say I am back to normal 100% now. So let's go ahead and get started with today's chapter of My Hero Academia. Now, in the last chapter, chapter 329, it pretty much ended with Star and Stripes on her squad of stealth bombers all flying towards Japan. And then Hawks and Best Jeanist and Endeavor find out that Shigaraki is actually 50 kilometers off the coast, already heading towards Star and Stripe. And she looks at Shigaraki saying, "Are you the one called All for One? It's nice of you to show up all by yourself, mister, but are you the villain that they call All for One?" And Shigaraki's on top of a flying Nomu saying, "That's a good question. Who exactly am I?" Avoiding actually answering the question by asking another question. So let's go ahead and see what happens with this interaction between Star and Stripe and Shigaraki in chapter 330, Me and Myself. So we got one of the bombers saying, "No, Star, that's Tomura Shigaraki, so we should expect an EMP attack. All units switch to shock shield mode and disengage autopilot." "Roger that, Bravo leader." "Roger, Bravo leader." And Star and Stripe is up there standing on one of her stealth bombers with one of them saying, "Well, what's our play, offense or evasion?" And Star says, "Do you even need to ask? We smash!" And she just glares at Shigaraki. And then the pilot who's where Star and Stripe is, the pilot who's flying the bomber that Star and Stripe is riding on top of, says, "Loud and clear, Star. Let's hope at least one of us makes a safe landing." "Battle formation! There's a villain to..." And then Star says, "There's a villain to take down. I'll make sure your remains make it back to your loved ones." Well, so Star and Stripe is already sure that barely anybody... Actually, let's be quite honest here. They all have a feeling, because I'm guessing they have enough information on Shigaraki to know that he's ridiculously powerful, so I guess they all saw this as a one-way trip, with Star and Stripe saying, "I'll make sure your remains make it back to your loved ones." Have all of these pilots gone, knowing full well that they will not come back? That's dedication when you think about it. "I'll make sure your remains make it back to your loved ones." And Shigaraki says, "It's a strange state I find myself in. I can truthfully declare that I am Tomura Shigaraki, but at the same time, there is no doubt that I am also me." So that seems to be the subconscious of All for One speaking through Shigaraki right now. "Radio waves plus air cannon plus heavy payload. I felt like this ever since I reawakened." And then, okay, so Shigaraki is combining radio waves plus air cannon, and we already seen what happens when he combines radio waves with just air cannon. He devastated a giant portion of the city where he reawakened in. But now he's also adding another quirk called heavy payload. So I'm assuming that this is going to cause it to be even more destructive than what we saw when he reawakened now? Because he didn't use heavy payload the first time he used these radio waves and air cannon quirks. But Star sees this and she says, "Evade!" And she jumps off of her bomber as Shigaraki pretty much Saitama's a giant portion of the sky, so with such devastation that it actually, the bottom half of the blast itself pretty much parts the clouds and pretty much envelops a good portion of this one panel. I'm on pages 4 through 5 right now. It's an enormous blast, but thankfully, some of the bombers managed to dodge out of the way. And Shigaraki says, "Well, USA, who will be the first to tag the other?" And Star is in the air by herself now, but she lands on another bomber saying, "Do you already know what my deal is? It won't help you fight back, because I reign supreme, boy." And then she gathers power in her, I guess she clenches her fists. "Air. As of now, the air." Wait, Star and Stripes quirk. New order? What type of quirk is this? "Air. As of now, the air does not exist 100 meters ahead of me." Wait, Star and Stripes quirk. New order. What the heck? And then an entire space, a giant star-shaped space envelops Shigaraki. Oh, we get an explanation for her quirk. After touching a target, she can call out the target's name and assign a new rule to it. Oh my goodness, she's Ichibei She's Ichibei from Bleach. How about you die with this? Yo! Okay, so the thing about Ichibei Chosakabe from Bleach is he's the leader of Squad Zero, and his ability is that he's given the name to everything in the Soul Society. He's one of the most powerful individuals in terms of just straight up raw power in Bleach, due to the uniqueness of his Zanpakuto and his Bankai, well, his Shikai, actually. He can literally change the name of things, and in the process, change the properties of it, and even depower people just by changing their name. He literally changes their nature. The way Star and Stripes quirk works is it's just like that. After touching a target, she can call out the target's name and assign a new rule to it. So she can literally grab the air and it says, "The air is now 10 times affected by gravity 100 meters in front of me." And the air will become 100 times heavier with gravity, where she says, she speaks things into existence. I see why All For One wants her quirk now. She just... After touching a target, the fact that she's able to just touch the air, because the air's not tangible, but you can feel it. By just her feeling the air, she can say, "Air, 100 meters in front of me, turn into water." I wouldn't be surprised if it causes that section of the air to just turn immediately into water. If this is how her quirk works, she's broken already. She might even be more powerful than All Might by that regard. Her quirk, New Order. After touching a target, she can call out the target's name and assign a new rule to it. Touch All Might. All Might. Fall unconscious. Or, yeah, she can do... Oh my goodness. Yo, I see why All For One wants her quirk. Because all he'll have to do is, if he gets her quirk, all he'll have to do is just say things, and it will happen. Now, I'm sure there's some limitations, but we don't see that right now. Let me get back to it because I'm still stuck on this. Star and Stripe's quirk is by far one of the most powerful I've seen already. Her quirk is broken. Her quirk is broken, everybody. But she says, all the air... Let me go back. Air. As of now, the air does not exist 100 meters ahead of me. The air itself does not exist. She literally just wiped the concept of air from existence 100 meters in front of her. And in a star-shaped pattern in that space, Shigaraki is surrounded by an airless void. He's essentially in a vacuum of space in an atmosphere. And Shigaraki's covering his mouth, and his eyes are starting to turn red because, you know, the lack of oxygen and the lack of the vacuum and everything. And he's thinking to himself, a brutal quirk. I want it. And Star is looking at Shigaraki stuck in this void saying, well, a guy who came all this way to meet me probably wouldn't drop dead that easily. Laser cannons! And all the bombers that are still there all just immediately fire on Shigaraki from pretty much every direction, and with enough force to lift him off of the Nomu that he's flying on top of. And one of the pilots says, that got him. Good shot, me. Like heck, that was you, Wedge. I shot first. I knew they were going to put a Star Wars reference in here. I knew it! Because Wedge is a character from Star Wars. Wedge Antilles. He's one of the pilots that was there during the fight of the Death Star in the Star Wars films, and he managed to survive like all the battles since then. So this is obviously this just okay. I'm sorry, it's just that My Hero Academia is just becoming more and more and more my favorite manga just because of these references. Like heck, that was you, Wedge. I shot first, and then Star says, "Don't get cocky just yet." And then Shigaraki gathers some more quirks in his hands. Reflect plus scatter. And then all of a sudden, he reflects the lasers that hit him and shoots them back at Star. And then Star gets hit by the laser, but then she says, the laser is holdable. And she is able to tangibly grab the laser that's in front of her. Her quirk is so broken. She is able to grab things that should not be grabbed. She's able to make a laser, which is essentially a light-based weapon. She's essentially causing light to be tangible so she can hold it and keep it from injuring her. Star is broken. His body is healing. No wonder Japan lost to this guy. And then Shigaraki's thinking, the vacuum she created is gone. Does New Order have a limitation of some sort? Is this my chance? And then then it shows his arm kind of tensing up, and he just launches from the flying Nomu towards Star, with Star saying, using monstrous strength for mid-air mobility, and playing right into my hands, Tomura Shigaraki! And Star launches directly at him and just bops. Oh my goodness! She just bops him. Just straight up decks Tomura Shigaraki straight in the face. But she said his name, because whenever she says the name of something, her speech bubble turns into the red and white stripes. When she states the new name of something she wants her quirk to take a hold of. So she's already said Shigaraki's name, so Shigaraki is pretty much at her mercy right now. But now we get a better explanation of her quirk from Star herself. I can only set new rules for up to 2 different targets at once. One of the 2 is always myself. I can't quite conjure up super strength on All Might's level, but I'm not too shabby. Wow, okay, so like she said, she can't just build up monstrous strength like All Might, but she's still crazy strong. Years ago, a Japanese student studying abroad saved me. My family and I were on our way to the Santa Monica Pier when it happened. A burglar on the run attacked us in our car. At least let my little sister live, I cried. I was ready to face death, but then he was there. So All Might saved Star when she was younger. When he was, I guess, in America. When he was out studying abroad in America. I'll never forget the sight of those two hair tufts. He was my role model from that day forward. As a show of my own even greater dedication to peace, I went for 8 tufts. So she patterned her hair off of All Might. That's why her hair is swept up in that direction. She took All Might's hairstyle and incorporated it into all of her hair. Where All Might has those 2 tufts of hair on the front of his head, she created 8 tufts of hair that just juts out from the back of her head. And it shows Star landing on Shigaraki as they both land on a stealth bomber. And I guess Shigaraki is saying, "There's no escaping him, that cursed All Might." And Star just smiles at him and says, "He's called the symbol of peace after all. Anyway, I've touched you and said your name. So now, if Tomura Shigaraki moves at all, his heart will stop." Yo! And then Shigaraki's just staring at him, thinking, she fell for it. There were signs from the moment I awakened. And it shows a flashback to when All for One was speaking through Shigaraki, saying, "You will be mine, little brother. The boundary was always hazy. As originally planned, you were meant to become me entirely." Okay, so this is All for One speaking to Shigaraki right now. "The boundary was always hazy. As originally planned, you were meant to become me entirely after the 2 months of recuperation. But what a firecracker you are, Tomura. Your sheer hatred, your drive for destruction. The doctor and I had our expectations and you rose up to blow them away. Percentage-wise, I'd say 97, perhaps 98. We will become one soon enough. No longer All for One, nor Tomura Shigaraki. We now meld into a new person altogether." And then Shigaraki just screams out, "No!" And then Star is taken aback by this, thinking, it didn't work? Is he not Tomura Shigaraki? Not in favor, are you? Well, I sure am. Do you detest me? Let that rage flow. Your hatred delivers us to our glorious future. And then, all of a sudden, Shigaraki's hair starts to grow out even more, because it was just his usual moppy top, but his hair starts to grow out a whole lot more in this instance while he's screaming. And then we cut to this memory of Tomura's house back when he was a child, with some narration saying, "It began in that house with a grain of hate that grew and built upon itself." And then the last thing we see is, I guess, a mass. I can't even tell if this is an explosion or just a massive blast of light way off into the distance of the sky, and that's where this chapter ends. So in this moment, has Tomura actually reached 100%? And this little light explosion that's happening in the air right now, is this Tomura achieving that full status? Is that what this means? Because it's just a silent panel as it shows a flash of light with some, like, crackling energy coming off of it far off into the distance in the sky, and there's no words, and it just says "to be continued." And plus, we're going on break after this chapter. So this is actually a really good chapter to go on break on. But now that we know what Star and Stripes' quirk actually is, and the fact that she says that she can only keep 2 targets under the command of her new order quirk, which is one is herself, and the other is whatever other target she decides to name. So she always has herself under new order. So anything she can basically, her quirk though, her quirk is ridiculous. Now, being a quirk, it always has its own limitations. But overall, her quirk is crazy. Hold on, I gotta look this up. New Order quirk. I gotta see what they say about her quirk. It's not even here yet. But her quirk, she can assign, when she says the name of something. Hold on, let me go back to this chapter's description. Stars and Stripes quirk, New Order. After touching a target, she can call out the target's name and assign a new rule to it. It doesn't seem like there's any limits on what the rule actually is, though. Because the very first thing we see her do is air. And by grabbing like a fistful of air and just gripping it, she says, as of now, the air does not exist 100 meters ahead of me. And in that instance, a star-shaped void of vacuumless, of an airless vacuum just appears, and it starts to suffocate Shigaraki because no air, and his eyes start turning bloodshot red because he's basically in a vacuum. He's essentially in the vacuum of space, but she does this just above the clouds. And then Shigaraki, after getting fired on with laser cannons, he reflects and scatters the laser, and one of it hits Star, but she says the laser is now holdable, and she's able to grip something that, for all intents and purposes, you should not be able to even touch. It is essentially light itself turned into a weapon, but she just says the laser is now holdable. And she grabs the laser and crumples it up and keeps it from injuring her. She grabs a laser blast. Here's the thing about lasers. They always fire in a straight line. Always. That is how all lasers work. Lasers are just straight lines of light. Anytime you see a laser, you don't see it bend unless it's dark side's omega beams. Those are the only times you see lasers bend mid-path. So, Star took something that we fundamentally know cannot change its shape mid-flight, mid-direction, or even change direction after it's been fired, and she just grabs it and just keeps and pushes it away, and she crumples a laser blast off of her. Now, the thing about this is she had a mask when she first started fighting. So after the laser hits her, we do see that it kind of, like, it's not like she's 100% impervious to it, because I guess from the blast, and I guess from the inertia from the attack, it causes her mask to get blown off. But that's the only thing about Star that's actually seen taking damage. That's it. She just grabs the laser and keeps the laser from hitting her, and the only thing that suffers because of this is her mask gets blasted off. And everything else, she's fine. Then Shigaraki tries to use his strength to jump towards Star, and we've all seen the massive strength that he has. He has monster strength, and that's just natural strength. His body has been conditioned to the point where he has Hulk levels of strength, and it's not from a quirk. His body's just tensile like that. But it's not enough to get a one-up on Star, because Star launches at him and decks him in the face, stopping him mid-flight. And she herself says, where is it? Where she says, I can't quite conjure up super strength on All Might's level, but I'm not too shabby. So she is strong enough to keep Shigaraki, who we've all seen to be able to launch himself at ludicrous speeds due to his strength. She stops him mid-flight and knocks him back. And knocks him into an adjacent stealth bomber that's flying around, because plenty of the stealth bombers are still around. They're still flying around. And she knocks him into one. And then we get an account of how All Might saved her when she was in Santa Monica, while All Might was in the US studying. And apparently, the story is a burglar was on the run, and attacked her car while she was younger. At least let my little sister live, I cried. I was ready to face death, but then All Might is just standing there in this flashback where she says, he was there. I'll never forget the sight of those two hair tufts. He was my role model from that day forward. As a show of my own even greater dedication to peace, I went for 8 tufts, and we get an explanation of why the tufts of her hair are shaped like that. She patterned her hair off of All Might's hair tufts that's at the top of his head. And she went above and beyond to show just how dedicated she is to peace and All Might being her role model. She said she fashions her hair into 8 tufts to pattern off of All Might. So there goes my idea of thinking that All Might trained her. No, she just became the United States #1 superhero based off of All Might saving her when she was a child, and due to her own dedication to being a symbol of peace, she patterned herself off of All Might. But I feel like with her New Order quirk, she is ridiculously strong. She has the power to change anything if she wanted. Now, she says she's only limited by 2 things that she can change. Herself and whichever else she names. But there doesn't seem to be a limit as to what can happen when she gives a command to someone. Now, here's one thing that I think gives a bit of an offset to this current quirk, and why the fact that with Shigaraki right now, her quirk may not actually be that effective. One thing is, due to the nature of Shigaraki as of right now, he has 2 consciousnesses. He has 2 consciousnesses in his body, himself and All for One. Now, the reason why, even though Star's quirk is incredibly powerful right now, and I already see the limitations being shown for her quirk right now, even though Star's New Order quirk is by far one of the, it's one of the most ridiculously overpowered quirks I have ever seen in this series. Sure, we've seen a whole bunch of destructive quirks from All for One and All Might and Midoriya with his plethora of quirks that he has in his body, and we've seen plenty of quirks used by other quirk users that are incredibly powerful. The New Order quirk from Star is essentially limitless. But I see that Shigaraki is going to be the one that puts her quirk to the test, due to the fact that when she names something to be affected by her quirk, it has to be that individual. The object or person in question has to be in control at that time. Let me see if I can put this in better words. Since Shigaraki has 2 consciousness in his body, if All for One takes over, then that's essentially All for One. So if she says Tomura Shigaraki, then it only affects actual Tomura Shigaraki if his consciousness is in control. So, since he has All for One in his body, and he's trying to take over Shigaraki right now, if All for One takes over and she says Tomura Shigaraki, it's not going to work over the consciousness that is currently residing in Shigaraki if All for One takes over. Because that's essentially a separate individual. So, let me see if I can go even deeper. I feel her New Order quirk not only affects the body, but I feel it affects the soul. Now, let me explain why I think this is. Because since he essentially has 2 different beings in himself, the consciousness of All for One and himself, it is essentially 2 whole different beings within one body. So if one person takes over, then that's the person that's in control, and that's the person that's housing them, and that's the only person that can be affected if their name is said by Star. So, Tomura Shigaraki is in control, she says his name. Tomura Shigaraki is affected. But then All for One takes over, she's still thinking it's Tomura Shigaraki, it only affects Tomura if Tomura is in control. So, when she said Tomura Shigaraki, if he moves even an inch, his heart will stop. That only affects Tomura while he's in control. That only affects Tomura when his soul is in control. So if All For One takes control, then the effects of her quirk become nullified because All For One is in control. As powerful as her quirk is, the uniqueness of Shigaraki's body at this point in time makes it difficult for her quirk to be absolute. As powerful as it is, it makes it difficult for her quirk to be absolute, but that's not to say that she's out of the fight. That's not to say that her quirk is basically useless. Because if she figures out that Tomura and All For One are housed in one body, and then they can just flip-flop between the two, making it difficult for her to keep control over either one of them at a given time, all she would have to do is just control the area around them. That's one way to circumnavigate the whole Beyond Two Souls deal that's going on with Shigaraki right now. And the thing with Shigaraki currently is it seems like, from All For One's perspective, it seems like Shigaraki is on the cusp of reaching his body's perfection. Because he also says that, let me just read these lines, where he says, "The boundary was always hazy. As originally planned, you were meant to become me entirely after 2 months of recuperation. But what a firecracker you are, Tomura." So on All For One's account, he was pretty much counting on Tomura literally becoming him. He was no longer going to be Tomura Shigaraki. All For One's consciousness in his original quirk that's in Shigaraki right now would have taken over Tomura completely, and All For One would have had a brand new body, but that was far more powerful than his original. That's what he had originally planned. 2 months after Shigaraki completely recuperated. But All For One is just surprised by his amount of sheer hatred, your drive for destruction. The doctor and I had our expectations, and you rose up to blow them away. Percentage-wise, I'd say 97, perhaps 98. We will become one soon enough. No longer All For One, nor Tomura Shigaraki. He's going to be someone completely new. His Demon Lord of Japan form. It's unknown if he wants to call himself something different, because he's no longer going to be All For One anymore, and he's no longer going to be Tomura Shigaraki. He's going to be someone new. He says, "We now meld into a new person altogether." And in this instance, Shigaraki screams out, and he actually moves, but Star's quirk doesn't stop him. It doesn't stop his heart. And Shigaraki questions if he actually is Tomura Shigaraki at all. And then All For One says, "Not in favor, are you? Well, I sure am. Do you detest me? Let that rage flow. Your hatred delivers us to our glorious future." And in this instance, Shigaraki's hair grows out even more. It grows out and it turns an even brighter shade. It changed color because his regular white hair he had before, his hair loses all those definite lines and everything, and his hair just starts to grow out completely, and then there's just a flash of light in the sky. Now, whether or not Star was caught up in this explosion, whether it was actually a destructive explosion, or it was just an explosion of Shigaraki attaining a new form, remains to be seen. But we're going on break after this chapter, so that just leaves so many questions. Whew. This was a good chapter nonetheless. To find out Star's quirk, her quirk is broken. Think of the different ways you can just say the name of something. Like, for example, I got this thing of sweet tea. Using her quirk, she can say, "Bottle of sweet tea. Explode like a nuke after 15 seconds. And after 15 seconds, this simple bottle of sweet tea explodes like a nuclear bomb. That's what she can do. If she's able to erase air from a given spot 100 meters, well, 100 meters in front of her. That's not saying that it's 100 meters of airless vacuum. It just means in front of her. But she's able to just say what she wants to happen to an object, and it happens. Her quirk is ridiculously powerful. There are so many applications that you can apply to this type of quirk. Just say the name of, I don't know, maybe, I wonder if she's able to do things, there has to be limitations about what she can actually do. I mean, she said that she can only assign it to 2 targets, herself and whichever else she names. But is there a limitation as to what actually can be done? That's not explained. Do I stream on YouTube only? I don't. I tend to stream on Twitch sometimes, just in case YouTube tends to be a bit finicky sometimes. I need to get back into streaming on Twitch and doing a lot more for you guys. I'm going to be holding a stream later today where I'm just playing some games, such as Scarlet Nexus. I haven't really started that game, and I kind of want to play it due to me only having to do one video after the stream is over. I have plenty of time to just stream for you guys, so I'll probably play some Scarlet Nexus. Still deciding if I'm going to do it on YouTube or Twitch, but YouTube most likely, since this is where most of my audience is. But it's not necessarily explained whether or not Star's quirk has a limitation on what her quirk can actually accomplish, but it does have a limitation as to what it can, about the limits of the targets it can affect. That's the limit that we know of right now. But as far as what she says happens and it just gets willed into existence, it remains to be seen if she actually has any limitations towards that. And if she doesn't, quite possibly one of the most overpowered quirks in this entire series. This explains why All For One says that if I defeat her and get her quirk, this war is all but a formality. Winning this war will be nothing but a formality. Think about that for a second. We kind of wondered what kind of quirk she had that would make All For One say, this war will be over if I get her quirk. Now we know. Her quirk can literally will things into existence. He could say, Izuku Midoriya, fall unconscious. And Midoriya will just fall unconscious until I tell you to wake up. And then Midoriya would just be unconscious until All For One says wake up, or, he tries to take One For All from him. He could say, Endeavor, stop thinking for 15 minutes. And then Endeavor would just fall over like a vegetable for 15 minutes after he touches him. There's really no limitation as to what All For One could possibly do if he got his hands on this quirk. That is scary. This quirk, the fact that it's in the hands of a hero, of all people, America should be very thankful that she's a hero and not a villain, because no one would really be able to stop her. I'm sorry, I'm just hyping over this quirk right now. It's just, this quirk is by far the most monstrous that I've seen. Like, Gigantomachia exists. His many, many quirks, his unstoppable quirks are something, but Star, being able to touch something and then give rules to that. Just like Ichibei Chosokabe. Hold on. Now, for those who don't know, let me explain to you who Ichibei is. Ichibei Hyosobe. Wow, I got his name completely wrong. Where did I get Chosokabe from? I'm sorry. His name is not Ichibei Chosokabe, it's Ichibei Hyosube. Ichibei Hyosube. Let me go down to his powers and abilities. True name manipulation. Ichibei can manipulate the true names, the metaphysical representations of, among other things, sentient beings, which grants him power over those he targets with his power. That's essentially what Star's power is. The ability to affect things and their nature just by saying their names. Name identification is an offset from this true name manipulation. Ichibei has the innate ability to determine the true name of all things. He came up with the name Zanpakuto and the release names Shikai and Bankai, and he was the first one to choose all the names of all things in Soul Society. Due to this unique skill, Ichibei also knows the names of every Zanpakuto from the time they are handed to a Shinigami as Asauchi created by Uetsu Nimaya. Name curse. Due to its importance, Ichibei's name carries a curse upon it. Those who are unworthy to speak it will lose their voices if they do so. Self-reconstitution. So the real big thing about this is the true name manipulation. Can manipulate the true names, the metaphysical representation of, among other things, sentient beings, which grants him power over those he targets with his power. Now, the reason why this is different between Star is the fact that she has to actually touch the individual and say their name. Whereas Ichibei can just say the name and he has immediate control over them. So that's the difference between the two. But Ichibei is not limited in the amount of targets he can affect by it because, Bleach, Planet Busters, and all those sort of things. And My Hero has like the quirk limitations and everything like that. But Star's power is essentially giving her the ability to create rules over whatever name she says, from a person to something that cannot be held and cannot be contained and cannot be touched, like air itself. And even light. Getting shot with a laser means nothing to Star because Star can just bend the light and says, I can hold this laser now, and throw it away. This is crazy. But enough about me harping on the crazy ridiculousness of this New World quirk. It's amazing, awe-inspiring, and terrifying if All For One were to ever get his hands on this quirk. Now, due to what's happening with Shigaraki right now, it remains to be seen if this explosion of light and power that just happened in the sky. Now, the thing is, it doesn't look like a regular explosion like you would see in a manga, where you just see the clouds get parted and it's a big nuclear explosion, fire blast in the air. It's just a little light in the sky at the end of the panel. It's just a little light in the sky and you just see power erupt from it, but it's not monstrous like an destructive explosion. It's just a big old flash of light, like Aizen was achieving his true Hogyoku form in his final fight against Ichigo. That's what it kind of looked like. But it remains to be seen if Star was caught up in that explosion, and it remains to be seen if this is what Tomura reaching his 100% actually is, because his hair got longer and his hair got changed colors, essentially. Now, it remains to be seen if his hair is still white, or if it just... because his hair is actually gray. His hair is actually a very light gray. It remains to be seen if his hair has turned pure white in the wake of, I guess, his body achieving 100%. And we don't even know if Tomura or All For One are going to be in control at this moment. I mean, even All For One says that we're no longer going to be All For One or Tomura Shigaraki. We're going to be someone completely new. So who knows what's going to happen once this light subsides and we see what happens after this explosion subsides and we see Tomura or whoever he's going to be afterwards, and whether Star is still there or whether her flight brigade is still there as well. That remains to be seen. We have to wait because we're going on break. But overall, fantastic chapter. I can't believe I talked about this for 44 minutes, but just the very nature of Star's quirk just opens up so many possibilities. And the power scaling in quirks among individuals in this series has just fundamentally changed. There's a reason. We now know why she's the #1 superhero of America and the world's strongest woman. What can you do to a quirk user that touches you and says, all your strength has left you for the next 15 minutes, or however she chooses, and you just fall prey to it, and there's no way for you to resist? It just opens up so many new avenues. But that's all I got for you, ladies and gentlemen. This was a great chapter. Oh my goodness, this was a great. I'm gonna be thinking about this new world, not new world, but new order quirk for a very long time. I'm gonna be thinking about it for a while until we get the next chapter. This is an overpowered quirk, but if I keep going with it, when we're gonna hit in a whole hour of me talking about this quirk and everything. But this was really Star's chapter. Sure, we had Shigaraki trying to fight Star, but Star had a counter for it every single time. And it seems like Tomura is about to achieve 100%, but this was really Star's chapter, and I'm glad we got an explanation of how her quirk works. Even with its limitations, it's broken. It is on par with All Might's. Even though she said she can't muster up the strength on the level of All Might, the ability she has and power of it is essentially on par with it. It's amazing. I love this story. But that's all I got for you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and get my reaction to the latest One Piece episode ready. And then, after all that is said and done, I'll get my stream ready for Scarlet Nexus, and then you guys can just come by and chill out and hang out with me. So I'm looking forward to that. With that being said, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. And if you're new to the channel, and you enjoyed what you saw here today, then consider subscribing, maybe even leaving a like as well, because likes help that YouTube algorithm get me noticed out there so even more people can come by and enjoy themselves where I can entertain them. But, yeah. Because I'm always looking for... See, here's the thing. I was trying to figure out how I was going to say that in my outro, and it already messed me up. Consider liking and subscribing because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day. I got it on track now. And once again, as always, later, peoples. Nailed it. Yeah.